Red Glass by Laura Rousseau, Chapter 13, Section 3. Later that morning, I helped the women get ready for a goodbye party in honor of Mr. Lorenzo and Angel, who planned to leave the next day. We sat at a long wooden table outside the kitchen with the ingredients for tamales spread out before us. My job was to scoop a spoonful of corn mush into a dried husk. Next, Abuelita dropped in a few chicken pieces. Then Dica topped it with a dollop of green tomatillo salsa. Then one aunt folded it up and the other put it in the steamer of a giant pot. We were each a link in the chain. After the first dozen tamales, I started getting the hang of it, and my hands moved on automatic pilot. I chatted and laughed at the aunts' jokes and about their lazy husbands drinking Coronas in the shade. Meanwhile, Mr. Lorenzo and Angel wandered with Pablo and the cousins in the monte, chasing lizards and playing tag and splashing around in the stream. After 100 tamales, we cooked a giant vat of pozole thick with corn kernels, swirled with dried red chiles that we'd roasted and ground and fried in oil. The entire head of a bewildered-looking pig poked out of the top of the soup. Next, we boiled a cauldron of coffee and threw in a handful of cinnamon sticks and a gourd full of sugar. Earthy, rich smells of boiling corn and oregano and roasting chile and cinnamon filled the kitchen and seeped out the door. Once the work was done, I went inside to change my clothes. My shirt was spotted with a mosaic of dried corn mush and salsa and coffee stains. I pulled out a silky black tank top, smoothed out the wrinkles, and reached for a cardigan to cover up my bony elbows. When I stopped, I remembered the limpia, how the air, so crisp, had made my bare skin tingle, how new it made me feel. Quickly, I stuffed the sweater back into the bag and put on my coconut jewelry and took a deep breath and walked outside. Over the thatched kitchen roof, the sun was dripping like beeswax into golden pools between the peaks. Angel and Mr. Lorenzo and the cousins had gotten back. They were devouring oranges and setting things up for the party. "Come help us, Lime Girl," Angel called. Together we set up wooden chairs in a circle between the kitchen and the bedrooms. We put the stereo speakers by the window and blasted music, cumbia and salsa and merengue. Once everything was set up, the aunts brought us bowls of steaming pozole and tamales and sweet coffee and cinnamon rolls sprinkled with sesame seeds. As we ate, Dica hung on to Mr. Lorenzo, feeding him bits of her roll, pouting over his leaving. "Now, when will you come back to me, mi amor?" she asked. "In 1 week, mi amor," Mr. Lorenzo said, stroking her cheek. "In 1 week we'll return." I glanced at Angel. He had stopped chewing and was staring at an orange peel in the dirt. 1 week, Dica moaned. 1 week without mi amor. How will I survive? As we finished dessert, it grew dark, and Angel turned up the music so loud it vibrated my bones. The uncles dragged the aunts, who raised their voices in fake protest, inside the circle of chairs and started dancing. Dica plopped down next to me. "Now, Sophie," she rubbed her hands together devilishly, "you must to tell Angel." "Tell him what?" She winked and pinched my cheek. "You know. You see how I tell Mr. Lorenzo he is mi amor? You must to do the same." She adjusted the clasp of my necklace and smoothed the coconut circles against my chest. "You cannot wait for the things to happen. You must to make them happen. And now I will say no more because I know you are angry with me when I say the things how they are." I flushed. Dika was right. I felt as though I'd climbed up on the high diving board and was taking in the view, but the thought of stepping into the air still scared me. After Angel finished his pastry, he bowed to Dika and ceremoniously asked her to dance. Watching Angel dance was even better than watching him play basketball. He moved perfectly with the rhythm. He was a magical, flowing sculpture of music. And Dika, who would have guessed she could move her body like that? She was in her element, like a sea cow in water, a graceful, beautiful thing, a strange mermaid. She followed Angel's spins and dips without missing a beat. She added belly dance moves, snaking her arms above her head, gyrating her hips. Beads of sweat flew off her like tiny diamonds. After a few songs, Mr. Lorenzo danced with her. He wasn't as amazing as Angel. His movements were slow and deliberate, and his eyes full of concentration, focused on which step came next. Still, Dika was glowing. She said to him loudly in Spanish so that everyone could hear, "Mi amor, if you don't come back from Guatemala in exactly 1 week, I will come get you and put you over my shoulder and carry you back." Angel glanced at me and grinned. "Let's dance, Slime Girl." I shook my head. I don't know how. He pulled on my arm. "Come on, I'll show you." But I shook my head and felt Dika frowning at me. Angel grabbed Abuelita instead, and after the song ended, he came back to me. I said no again. And then he grabbed an ant, and for the next song, I said no again. And then he danced with the other ant until he'd gone through every female but me and Nola, who was lying beside the patio watching the stars. I looked at Nola and thought, that's me. That's who I'll be in 80 years. An old, weird lady who hovers at the edges of life and watches the sky and hears a faint echo of laughing stars and lives on that memory. The next song was my favorite, Following the Moon. This time, when Angel asked, I said yes.